Pain and confusion greet Stefan as he slowly opens his swollen eyes. Running his tongue around his dry mouth, the first thing he notices, apart from the coppery taste of blood, is the presence of several broken teeth. Before he could even begin to understand the state of his damaged mouth, his nose is bombarded with the worst smells imaginable. Smells that he could only equate to a long-neglected horse stall occupied by the decaying body of its former occupant. Clothed only in his ripped and torn sleeping garments, he himself appears to be covered in the same foul-smelling ichor. Trying to blink away this fog of his confusion, he notices the presence of a filthy beggar staggering towards him, lit only by the fullness of the moon. All at once, disgusted by the state of the man, his revulsion intensifies as the man shuffles closer. The beggar's face is covered by a ragged scarf as filthy as his robes, but it's his stench that assaults Stefan's nostrils and threatens to make him vomit. Frozen in revulsion, he cannot escape the raggedy man's empty gaze as his disease-ridden hand stretches towards his chest. Stefan is unable to suppress a scream as the beggar's putrid finger touches him, drowning out the word mumbled through that rotting scarf. Screaming, Lord Stefan wakes to find himself struggling against his tangled bedsheets. Freeing himself, he begins to calm as he takes in his familiar bedchamber surroundings lit by the twilight hour moon through the open window. Comforted by the view of his lavish room, filled with every extravagance he believes a man of his station deserves, he shakes off the remnants of his already half-forgotten nightmare. Reaching to the side table, he rings a small crystal bell to summon his manservant. Thinking that a nightcap is needed to dispel such dismal dreams and allow him to resume his slumber, he contemplates what punishment should be handed to his servant for such tardiness in responding to his summons. Should he send the man to muck out the stables again, or take pleasure in having the man's family tossed off his property for this derelict of duties? In a huff, Stefan climbs out of bed, pulling on a silken robe over his bedclothes, ready to make an example for the rest of his servants. A clear reminder that they have the privilege to be at his beck and call, and that this level of disrespect will not be tolerated. Throwing open his chamber doors, with a mind to harshly chastise the house staff, he is stopped in his tracks upon the sight of his hallway in complete disarray. His prized possessions, priceless art, and gifts from the king himself appear to be either missing or smashed and broken upon the marble floors. At first, pleased to see familiar faces approach from the end of the hallway, his breath seizes as he quickly realizes those faces are joined with those of complete strangers carrying torches and weapons, anger and outrage clear in their movements. Viva la Revolution! Down with the aristocracy! They scream as they run towards him, trampling what's left of his belongings in their path. What happens next passes in a blur to Stefan, as he is beaten and half-carried, half-dragged from his home, tossed into the gutter. He is granted a view of his once extravagant home, succumbing to the fires set by the mob. Stefan is able to let one sob of helplessness escape from his lips before a growling man, who might have once been his manservant, smashes a boot into his face. The void of unconsciousness envelops him. Pain. Pain and confusion greet Stefan as he slowly opens his swollen eyes. Deja vu immediately strikes him as he recognizes his surroundings, the stench, the filth, the broken teeth and bloody mouth that greet him as he pulls himself into a sitting position in the gutter. He can still see the smoke of his burnt home on the horizon before his vision is filled with a filthy beggar staggering towards him just a few feet from where he sits. Unable to move away quickly enough, he gasps in revulsion as the raggedy man's bony finger pokes him in the chest. Through the rotting scarf covering the man's features, Stefan can hear him whisper, "Greed," before raspy laughter overtakes the creature. Mouth agape in horror, Stefan closes his eyes tight and screams until his lungs feel about to give out. Waking, screaming, and thrashing about in expensive bed sheets, Stefan finds himself in his lavish bedchambers. Shaking off the fog of sleep in a terrifying nightmare, he hears shouts and scuffling coming from outside his chamber doors.